They're a lot smarter than people give them credit for, just because they don't follow our criteria and the way that we think, but they definitely have our personality. I've got to know them pretty well. At first, it was the behaviour of the birds that would soon tell me which bird it was, but now I can look at an emu right in the face using the technology and I know exactly who that emu is. From what I understand, a lot of this stuff hasn't been captured before, but it's due to the new technology. The technology we're using is amazing. It's made by a company called DJI. The drone I use, it's an all-weather, all-day-night drone. It has 200 times zoom, but it also has full thermal capabilities. So if I've got emus in a forested area, I can flick to thermal during the day and see the emus through the tree foliage.
This population of emus is the last population of emus on the east coast of northern New South Wales. It's geographically isolated and we think there's less than 50 birds left in this population. We've been working with Micah for just over 3 years. He basically lives with the emus for a few months of the year, documenting their behaviour. So with the introduction of this technology on the project, we've been able to find our first wild coastal emu nest, which is the first time this has ever been done. We've also started to collect some amazing behavioural and diet information which we didn't have recorded. So all of this stuff that we've been collecting over the last few years is helping us to fill knowledge gaps and inform the future management of the conservation project.
And the moment of truth, we've picked up that some eggs have hatched with the field camera that we put on the nest, and yeah, I'm going to go for a closer look, so stand by.
When I'm looking for emus, I usually go to cleared areas of the natural vegetation. I thought it'd be a good idea to highlight how hard it is to see a nest. So you're looking here at full resolution. You can see a small dot in the centre of the screen. That's actually the nest. And as you can see, we're still a long way away, and using the zoom, we're able to come right in. This bird is Bert. He's the second season that he's had consecutive nests on the property. He's an awesome dad. When I actually saw him laying down, it's a good indication it's a male emu. He's on a nest. Now, I'd watched him for 48 hours. He hadn't moved. And then the following morning, I actually saw the eggshells around him, so I knew he had chicks. He's more of a solitary bird. He doesn't really socialise that much. He's a bit of a lone wolf. What I like to do is I actually watch the behaviour of the animal. If I see that any of the equipment I'm using is upsetting the birds in any way, I'll actually back off. So I know you're looking at this footage and you're looking at an emu, but I'm actually looking into his face and his body language to see whether the drone's actually upsetting him. So I've actually got to get close enough that I get good resolution, but not enough to upset the bird. So what we're looking at here is a bird called Eddie. We'd been monitoring this nest for a good couple of weeks now, and I had noticed that using the technology, using the zoom, I noticed that he had some eggs underneath him. So I'd go in and check on him in the morning, see if there's any changes in his behaviour, because just before the eggs pip, the bird becomes agitated. The dad feels it underneath him and he gets agitated. Into the second week, he was a bit restless. You could see that the eggs must have been moving underneath him. He was very restless, and then I came in one morning, I think it was on a Saturday morning, and you could see the egg had fractured. Now, I wasn't sure whether it had been damaged, but in the footage you could actually see the head or the beak of the chick moving. Within about 4 hours, the chick had actually hatched out of the egg, and that was amazing to watch. I don't believe it's ever been documented before. At first I thought we had a stillborn. It wasn't moving in any way. You could see that the male emu was actually looking puzzled. but after he moves, it sort of prompts the chick to start moving. I came into the project not knowing too much about the emus themselves. I did grow up in far north Queensland. We had a farm up there, so I grew up with the cassowaries, and a lot of their behaviour is very similar. Once we got out in the field, I started to learn more about the emus and stuff like that. I soon realised that none of this had been documented before out in the wild, and using the technology allowed me to have a day in the life of the endangered coastal emu. When I handed over the material, people were saying, wow, this is amazing, we haven't ever received anything like this. So my main goal is to give the authorities, the people that make the decisions, the right data so they get a good insight of what the emus do, their behaviour, their food sources, their corridors, and then that correct information actually goes to the authorities and they can make the decisions. The footage we're looking at here is Bert on his first nest. So it's a male emu. The chicks had just hatched. Now what was happening is it was a very hot day. There were some goannas in the area. They were baking themselves in the sun, so they had energy, and there was a series of attacks on the nest. As you can see from the RGB camera or the normal camera, it just looked like an emu running around in the grass, but using the thermal tells the story. The goannas actually got heat from the day. It picked up with the thermal. We could actually see it stalking the bird on the nest. And in this case, it actually ran right over the top of the nest in the excitement, ran over the top of the nest, over top of some chicks, and then ran away. Lions Club Clarence Environmental, they donated me a spotlight that I actually have on the drone, which works in the partnership with the thermal technology. So when I fly over an area at night time, all I see is what I call a thermal blob. So it's a signature, but I can't really see what it is. So unless I fly directly over the top of it, and it's pretty intrusive, I can't identify what that is. Now they've donated me a spotlight, which has been amazing. So when I get a thermal signature, I lock onto that, then I turn the spotlight on. It allows me to zoom in, as I said, up to 200 times in on the animal, and it's non-intrusive. Now the LEDs we use, it doesn't upset the animals at all. I've seen animals continuing their behaviour even though the spotlight's on them, but it's just been a game changer.
We usually kick off the monitoring program in March, as this is part of the breeding season. The Anzac Day marks the first laying of the eggs from the emu, and so we like to get an idea of the congregating adults and where they are in the landscape, so then Micah can monitor them through that breeding season into nesting season. So the male sits on the eggs for roughly 56 days, and that could be any time from June through to October. Through the work that Mike has been doing, he's become a part of the local community. So he has made really good relationships with the landholders, including farmers, local residents, as well as the local Yaegal mob, which has been invaluable for the project.
I get calls around the clock, doesn't matter what time or day it is. We wouldn't have a project without the landholders or farmers. Those guys live in the area 24/7, 7 days a week, and the knowledge they have of the birds and their movement, honestly, it's so valuable. We've been working closely with Yaegal people. You know, like these guys have been walking these lands for thousands of years, and they know where the known song lines are and movements of the emu. We go out in the field with them. They show me historical areas, stuff like that. It's been passed down over generations, but it's Honestly, it's been so valuable, and it probably has fast-tracked us with locating birds and their behaviour.
The local community is a huge aspect of this project. We had a citizen science project where we had over 80 volunteers that helped out with the population count, which we wouldn't have been able to do without that support. It's pretty incredible to see, one of our last megafauna in the wild. The numbers are so low. I think that for future generations, we need to get this population to a point where it's self-sustaining so everyone can enjoy them being a part of our local area.
Honestly, every day just blows me away. Watching the chicks, how they interact with each other, how they interact with the dad. I do recall one summer, it was a really hot day. The chicks actually are prone to heat exhaustion, they sleep a lot, and they go from water source or shade source all the time. And this one particular emu made its way in with the two chicks, and the two chicks ran right past the dad, just about knocked him over and jumped straight into this water hole. It was amazing. It was like kids running and jumping, and the dad didn't know what was going on. It was amazing to watch.